Hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig. And hi, everyone. Welcome to the paddock. On this episode, we're going to be doing one of my favorite things, spotlighting a driver on the grid. This time, we're going to be spotlighting Kevin Magnussen, and joining us, we have Amy, Hanna, Melissa, and myself, Chelsea. I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Hanna, who's going to start us off on Kevin's journey into Formula One.
So, Kevin was born into a racing family. Kevin Jan Magnussen is a Danish racing driver currently competing in F1 for Haas F1 team. And for everybody who doesn't know, he is actually the son of a four-time Le Mans winner and former F1 driver Jan Magnussen. He was born October 5th, 1992 in Roskilde, Denmark. I apologize if I say that incorrect. And while I couldn't find much on his early years, as he and his family lived a pretty private life, but as you go into his career, you will notice that he adapted a very similar path as his dad himself did, and really kind of followed into his footsteps. So let's go ahead and get started on his early career.
Karting since he was a kid, Kevin joined Formula Ford in 2008, also known as Formula F. Now, this was a single-seater entry series for young drivers, and he kicked ass during his first and only season in the series. So I love that for the little kid. Based in Denmark, he ended up winning 11 races out of 15 in the season and was named champion winner by the end. And this, I think, is a beautiful beginning to a single-seater career. He also took part of the ADAC Formel Master season during 2008, and this is an open-wheel racing series from Germany powered by Volkswagen, and he got to join in 6 races. Now, he drove with Van Amersfoort Racing, a common name we hear in, a couple other series, and his teammate was actually a woman known as Emma-Elina Kemalainen. I do apologize if I said her name wrong. She was a Finnish racing driver. You can currently find her competing in the W Series. In 2009, though, we saw Kevin change his series and move on to Formula Renault 2.0.
So in 2009, Kevin moved up to Formula Renault 2.0 with Motor Park Academy. At the North European Cup, he finished in second to Antonio Felix da Costa, and at the Euro Cup, he finished in seventh. By 2010, Kevin competed in the German Formula 3 Championship driving with Motor Park Academy again. There he won the opening race of the season at Oskablaren. I butchered that, so again, apologies. We're trying out here. He also took home 2 other wins, and overall, he finished in P3 in the championship for that year. In 2011, Kevin continued on to the British Formula 3 Championship with Carlin that year. In the season, he took 7 race wins with him, and he finished in the championship in second with his teammate Philip Nasir in first. Kevin also competed in the Masters of Formula 3 in Zandvoort, where he finished in third. This year is the only year that Kevin participated in the Macau Grand Prix, where he had qualified in 7th, but later was penalized to the back of the grid for ignoring yellow flags. He started the race in 19th, but unfortunately, he DNF'd after a crash late in the race.
Now, he did end up moving up again in series to Renault 3.5 with the Carlin team in 2012. Here, we saw Kevin get a pretty good start to his season with the team because he ended up finishing the opening race at Motorland, I believe, Aragon, in second place, and taking pole position in both races at Spa, winning the second race completely. Now, while he ended the championship in 7th, he did stay in the series in 2013 again. This time, however, he changed teams and he went to DOMS, otherwise known as DAMS. This season was a way better one for Kevin. He finished with 5 victories, 8 other podium places, and 8 pole positions. Now, coming as champion this time, he was actually 60 points clear of the runner-up Stoffel Vandoorne. Now, he did completely skip Formula 2, and here is where we saw Kevin jump up the ranks and join the Formula 1 grid, which Amy is going to tell us a little more about.
Now, in 2014, McLaren confirmed that Kevin was going to be Sergio Perez's replacement for the season. Was his first F1 season after being promoted from their young drivers program, and he was being paired with Jenson Button, and he was quoted as saying that Jenson was his ideal teammate for his first season, which I really do agree with that, because Jenson really is kind of the perfect pairing for your rookie season. He's got so much knowledge, and I think it was a really good pairing, and I understand why McLaren made that move. Now, this year, Formula One decided to introduce a new rule for the season where drivers were required to choose a car number for the season and for their career. And Kevin decided that he wanted to race with number 20. It was the number he had on his Dom's car in 2013 when he won the series, and so it just fit. During preseason testing, he was topping the timesheets. By the first race in Australia, he was qualifying in 4th position. During the race, he missed crashing at the start after his car had some wheel spin issues, and even managed to pass Lewis's Mercedes in the early stages of the race and keep the position to take a 3rd place finish, which made Kevin the second Danish driver after his father take a point scoring finish in Formula One. He was also the first Danish podium finisher and the first debutant since Lewis's win at the 2007 Australian Grand Prix to take a podium in his first Grand Prix. After the race, he actually was promoted to 2nd because Daniel Ricciardo was disqualified due to fuel irregularities. So he actually ended up finishing P2, which is insane. All in all, 2014 was a really solid season for Kevin. After Australia, he got 11 point scoring finishes, mainly 9th or 10th place finishes, though he did get 7th in Austria and Great Britain, and he did get a 5th place finish in Russia. Now for 2015, we saw Fernando Alonso replace Kevin for the season, and Kevin was actually moved to be the test and reserve driver for the team. Kevin had actually been in talks with Andretti Autosport to join their IndyCar team, which was supposed to be a Honda-powered team, but McLaren ended up blocking that deal. Kevin had been really open about making a full-time switch to IndyCar to fulfill a long-held dream of racing the Indy 500. He was even quoted as saying, "I would love to do it. I would never put aside Formula One to do it, but I would love to do it." And apparently, according to Kevin, after meeting with Andretti and Indy, things had been really close to a deal. In reference to McLaren, Kevin was quoted as saying, "Things didn't turn out as I wanted with McLaren. I didn't really have the support that I needed from them at the time. They supported me very well before that, but in the moment, they didn't do a great job, I have to admit." During the 2015 season, Kevin competed in one race, the Australian GP, after Fernando was told not to race due to a concussion from a preseason testing accident. Kevin failed to start the race due to an engine failure on the formation lap. Kevin was actually released from McLaren at the end of the year via an email that he received on his birthday, according to some articles that are online, which I think that's just a really crappy way to handle a situation. From an HR perspective, you know when people's birthdays are. You could have just waited a day or done it a day earlier. I wouldn't have done that. But Kevin came back better than ever for 2016.
I also don't agree with how that was done, but it was almost IndyCar. It was almost the Haas team until we saw the Haas team pick up Romain and Esteban as the team drivers instead, before Kevin would end up driving for the Renault team during the 2016 season, partnering with rookie Jolyon Palmer. Now, this decision almost seemed a little last minute because it started off almost like a rumor as the talks were happening, because Pastor Maldonado, which was the current Renault driver, had committed a breach in his contract between himself and the team. Renault themselves was also just rejoining the grid because they had just purchased the Lotus F1 team and they were returning after like a 4-year hiatus. Now, to say this season was like an absolute horror for Kevin would be an understatement. He suffered a puncture in Australia, was forced to start from the pit lane in Bahrain, crashed in practice at the Chinese Grand Prix, collided with teammate Palmer in Spain, crashed in practice in Monaco before colliding with Kvyat in the race, was forced to miss qualifying in Canada after again crashing during the practice, started from the pit lane in Azerbaijan, had a gearbox failure in the closing laps of the British Grand Prix, suffered a high-speed crash at the Eau Rouge Radillon complex while running 8th at the Belgian Grand Prix, experienced power loss in Malaysia, and finally, suspension damage in Abu Dhabi. This was all one season. Now, Russia and Singapore were the only times he finished in the points, getting 7th in Russia for the Lotus highest finish of the season, and 10th in Singapore. Obviously, with this history for the season, Magnussen finished the season in 16th place. So after making absolute chaos at Renault, he decided it was time to take that energy to Haas.
K-Mag signed a contract with Haas for the 2017 season alongside teammate Romain Grosjean. So at the first race of the season at the Australian GP, he actually DNF'd and had to retire due to issues. But after that, Magnussen enjoyed positive results initially, including a run to 8th during the second round in China and a 10th place on the streets of Monaco. He actually benefited from the chaos in Baku as well to finish 7th and manhandled his uncompetitive car into 8th position in Mexico, having run as high as 3rd at one stage in that race, helping him to finish 14th in the overall standings with 19 points, only 9 points short of his teammates. In 2018, Haas leveraged its relationship with Ferrari from who it sourced various components of the car from. More effectively, in 2018, Magnussen benefited from a significant step in competitiveness from the new VF18 car. Haas was able to compete at the front of the midfield for once in a very long time. Though a top 4 finishes in the Australian opener was scumpered by a pit stop issue, Magnussen became a regular scorer over the course of the year. He equaled Haas's best result of 5th place in Bahrain and then again in Austria, with 11 trips to the top 10 earnings, giving him his best finish with 9th in the overall standings. So 2019, despite showing strong form in preseason testing with the new Haas car, it struggled with various issues over the course of the season as the American team went the wrong way in development. K-Mag was often criticized at times for his overly forceful driving, trying to get the car to do more than what it could handle. And his teammates tested their team principal Gunther Steiner's patience for repeated contact hitting each other throughout the year, including the first lap at Silverstone, just as a reference. This was also the year his teammate Romain got in a really bad, almost fatal car crash. Other than a 6th place finish in Bahrain, points were hard to come by for K-Mag, with just 4 top 10 results to his name coming at the end of the season. He finished the season in 16th place in the championship with only 20 points, 12 points ahead of teammate Grosjean.
Now, for 2020, we saw the duo of K-Mag and Romain Grosjean continue at Haas. For the opening of the championship at the Red Bull Ring, it proved to be difficult for Kevin and for Haas, as the VF20 was just off the pace. In the early stages of the Hungarian Grand Prix, Kevin was running in 3rd. He did ultimately fall back through the race, but he managed to cross the line in 9th. After the race, it came out that Haas had broken the rules around team radios after telling both drivers to pit at the end of the formation lap. Kevin was given a 10-second penalty, only bumping him down to 10th. It was still his and Haas's first points of the year. His 2020 season shook out as follows: 1 point finish in P10, 2 P12s, 1 P13, 2 P15s, 1 P16, 2 P17s, 1 P18, and 7 DNFs. At the end of the season, it was announced that Kevin and Roman would be leaving the team and would be replaced with Formula 2 champion Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin for the 2021 season. And I have to say, 2021 was a busy year for Kevin, on and off the track. He became a first-time dad in early 2021 when he welcomed his daughter Laura, and he even moved back to his native Denmark to raise his family. He spent his year off in a few different racing categories, most notably the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, IndyCar, and the 24 Hours of Le Mans. During the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, Kevin was driving the #1 Chip Ganassi Racing DPI car alongside Dutch driver Renger van der Zinde. Apologies if I mispronounced that. He won his first race at the Detroit Grand Prix. Overall, his season broke down as 10 race starts with 1 race win, 5 podiums, 1 pole position, 5 fastest laps, and only 1 DNF. He finished the season in 7th, which was fantastic for him. His experience in IndyCar was relatively short as he was only filling in for McLaren's Felix Rosenqvist. When he entered IndyCar, Kevin actually reached out to Romain Grosjean prior to the race and was quoted as saying, "He was actually very helpful in giving advice and just kind of letting me know the obvious and biggest differences from IndyCar to Formula One." At the end, he classified 24th out of 25 starters, but he did lead 6 laps. At the time, that was 6 more laps than he'd ever led in Formula One. In April, it was announced that Kevin would be driving the number 49 high-class racing LMP2 car with his dad, Jan Magnussen, and Anders Forbush in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. During his experience with Le Mans, he classified 29th in the overall standings and 17th in the LMP2 class.
So in early 2022, we saw what was happening in the world, especially between Russia and Ukraine. This led to Haas terminating Nikita Mazepin's contract, and we saw the return of Kevin to the team with a multi-year contract, partnering with Mick Schumacher for the season. Off the bat, Kevin started off the season well. At Bahrain, he finished the race in 5th place, scoring one of the only top 5 finishes in Haas's history. At the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Kevin finished in 9th place that weekend, earning Haas consecutive points for the first time since 2019. Later in the season at Silverstone, both Kevin and Mick finished in the points, giving Haas their first double points finish since Germany 2019. The highlight of the season, not only for Haas, but also for Kevin, the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. We witnessed Kevin getting pole for the sprint qualifier after George had spun out, ending the session with the red flag. The pole position was both Haas and Kevin's first pole in Formula One. This also made Kevin become the second driver in the sport's history to set pole for a non-Ferrari team using a Ferrari engine. This happens 14 years after Vettel did the same with Toro Rosso at the 2008 Italian Grand Prix. Ultimately, Kevin finished the 2022 season in 13th place with 25 points. Following in the current season, the 2023 season, Kevin had a new racing partner, Nico Hülkenberg. Unfortunately for Kevin, the season hasn't been the greatest for him. Kevin has only finished twice in the top 10 at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix and the Miami Grand Prix. He currently sits at P18 with only 2 points. But we're only just a little over halfway through the season with quite a few races to go, so hopefully it'll get better for Kevin. However, just at the end of silly season, last month in August, Haas did announce that both Nico and Kevin will continue driving with them for the 2024.
Now, if you've been listening to the Paddock Girls podcast for a while, you know we love a fun fact. And I found a fun fact about Kevin when I was going down a rabbit hole. And apparently, between doing Formula Ford in 2008 and Formula Renault in 2009, he actually worked as a welder just to kind of make some money and kill some time. And I guess we can say that he really leaned into those Viking and Danish roots. And I just think it's a really cool thing to be able to say that he did that. I know we found that out in one of the races. They put it up on the board as a fun fact that like his first job was being a welder, and I didn't believe them, and it's really true. It's kind of cool to know that he does stuff like that.
I'm not gonna lie, I very much like this fact. It's very fitting of also a dad to have his little garage with tools doing things. So this makes sense to me. I feel like I I really hope he still has like a welding setup somewhere in his home for when he has free time. Also, I wonder if he does anything with cars because you can weld with cars, right? Like that's a
You
project.
can.
So maybe he does
Yeah.
something with that.
You never know. I do know that a lot of reasons why he adopted like welding and learning welding and that becoming more of a trade was because he was struggling with the financial stability and the backing behind his career. And so that was one of the reasons why he adapted that, which is pretty cool to kind of see like, hey, I want my career to succeed. I'm going to do everything I can to get there. And he made a point to like become a welder to get him through it. So that to me is just very significant. You don't see that very often. So I love that.
Kevin has so much drive, and it's just, he's so open about it, and I love that about him. And for those who don't know, as I already mentioned, Kevin had a little girl already. Well, this year he and his lovely wife Louise welcomed their second daughter. Her name is Agnes. And I honestly think he's somebody who is perfect to be a girl dad, and it makes my soul really happy. I don't think there's anybody else on the grid outside of his teammate Nico Hulkenberg who are really meant to be like girl dads.
You think he's gonna put her in racing? I really hope he does. I think that would be amazing because he's already like a legend in a way, in the sense that like his dad was a legendary driver, so now he's a driver. So like the girl has to become one.
My favorite thing is all of the pictures of Laura, his oldest, in the Haas car because she's so into it. And oh my God, he's definitely going to be like, if they want to do it, they'll do it. But I don't think he's somebody who's going to like push them to do it. I think if the girls want to do it, he'll back them, but he's never going to put that kind of pressure on his kids.
I just want to say, well, like I agree with you, Amy, about how like he'll let his kids decide his own path type of thing. Would love to see like his kids develop into like the new F1 Academy and like do karting and all that and like be like, sorry for my French, complete badasses. That would be amazing. So please, if you hear this, Kev, let's do it.
Hey, who knows if like either one of them like joined the F1 Academy, he can even be like the team principal or something and like help the team that their daughters are on. It'd be a really cool like little like family thing, like a little generational like tradition that they have. Would be cute.
I mean, his teammate was a woman at some point in his career, and I feel like that also may have given him just like some light into what women have to experience in this field. Because even as a daughter, I'm sure it's going to be hard for her to get into this career like anyone else. But I would love, love, love to see Kev just there in the W series watching his girls speed around, go super fast. Like, that's my girl.
I just want to say, as you said, "That's my girl," the song, like in my head, just repeated, "That's my girl," just over and over. So thanks. I will now be repeating that all night.
I could see Kevin being the biggest menace in the paddock. As a parent, he would just be such a hype man, but he would piss everybody off because he'd just be so obnoxious about it.
Hold on. I just thought of this, but so Kevin has kids and Nico has kids, his teammate. I wonder if they ever have play dates together. Like lets our kids just hang out and like do play dates. Like I feel like that would be so cute. And there's not many drivers on the grid who have kids. And so like the few that have kids, it would be really cute to see them just have a play date and like grow up into motorsports together. So yeah.
I was gonna say, so besides him being a girl dad, which I love, because I'm also a daughter of a girl dad, I love knowing that Agnes was born either exactly or close to exactly 9 months after that pole position at Brazil. Love that for him and love that for his family as well too. It's just a great way to celebrate, if you can say that word. You can cut that out if you want, Chelsea. I just want to add that in for some funniness.
We are keeping that in because whoever did the math and then blasted it in the news about him, you're a real one. That was funny as heck.
And now that we've talked about his life outside of F1, what do we think the rest of the season will bring or next year will bring for K-Mag? What are your thoughts?
hoping for the 2024 season, because at this point they're just focusing on next year, that whatever money Haas can get, that they can just put into that engine and give both Kevin and Nico better cars than this year or in the past years, because they deserve it. And it'd be nice to see an American team fighting more at the top midfield, maybe at the top. Be nice. Really, really nice.
And while we know that K-Mag will be with Haas indefinitely for next year because his contract does end at the end of 24, I am interested to see if he continues with Formula One or if he pursues other endeavors, goes back to IndyCar, for instance. We never know. But I will say I hope for Haas's sake that they start developing a better, more competitive car. They are traditionally more this year on the back end of the grid, but would love to see just a little bit more in development, like Ferrari help them out.
Now, I am manifesting some more P9s, P8s, maybe a P5, P6. Some higher point finishes for K-Mag for maybe this year, but mainly for next year is what it's feeling like at least. But I would really love to see him at some point pivot and go back to IndyCar and really do a full IndyCar experience and not just fill in for a race. I'd love to see him do the whole shebang, but we'll see what he wants to do.
Do you guys like see him staying on the grid after his contract with Haas ends though? Because he's already getting up there and he has kids. I don't know if we're gonna see Kevin as long as Alonso.
I don't think so, just because he has kids. I would imagine he would want to see them grow up after a certain, once they reach like a certain age and everything. Too, but again, Haas wants reliable drivers because we saw what happened when they had two rookies at the same time. So it's kind of up in the air.
Depending on who would take Kevin, I could see him sticking around for another few years at least. He's only 30. So it's not like he's that old. I mean, I'm gonna be 30 in a few months. So like realistically, he's definitely got probably another few more years in him. It's just really what team would want him outside of Haas. Maybe Williams could be a cool experience if Williams really wanted to have someone more reliable, but I think they're with Alex is reliable.
This is me having an idea. You guys probably already had this idea, but it makes so much sense. Switch Kevin and switch him with Logan. Give the American to the American and give him to Williams. That makes the most sense to me.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. No, that makes 110%. While I don't know if Logan and Gunther would mesh very well, personality-wise, I still think it's a valid choice. Gene, if you're hearing this, please make it happen because you are the ultimate deciding factor at the end of the day. But I will say, you are right. He does have kids, and I don't necessarily know if he's going to stick around. What point do you put the boots up and you say, I'm going to enjoy my time with my kids while I'm young? So I'm a little torn. Part of me wants to see him on the grid for multiple years to come and see him get a little bit more out of the grid. And then part of me is like, hey, go enjoy your life, man. See them grow up.
I would personally just love at least another 3 years of Kevin Magnussen on the grid. If I'm being really honest, that would make my heart really happy. I'm just not ready to let him go yet.
I don't know why, but I kind of see him like working behind the scenes. Not so much like Nico Rosberg, where he's like interviewing, but more so like with this specific team, like maybe team principal or like somewhere around there that helps out with like development of the car and whatnot. Or it doesn't necessarily have to be like F1, but it can be like IndyCar or like any other type of racing.
I see him doing what Jensen Button did, following his old teammates' footsteps and doing car development for a team. That is so something I could see him doing. I'm just excited to see what the future holds for Kevin. I think there's still more that he's got in him. Just depends on where he wants to go.
And now into probably my favorite portion of the episode, the pre-outro. And today we are doing Driver of the Week. So K-Mag, which is his nickname, FYI, if you didn't get that together so far. Kevin Magnussen? Yeah. Okay. So here's a quote that I recently found him saying is where he is quoted saying, I focus on the team and I block out all of the outside media stuff because it's irrelevant and uncontrollable. And F1 has been a dream since he was a kid, and seeing his dad race and following his footsteps. So, love that he blocks out all the stuff and kind of has like that tunnel vision and focuses on the here and now, the driving, and just doing what he loves versus letting everything from outside get to him. So, love that for him.
I don't know about you, but I always love a driver spotlight. What driver spotlight are you looking forward to next? We only have 5 left for the season, which is crazy. Let us know on our socials everywhere. We are Paddock Girls Podcast, except on Twitter. There you can find us at Paddock Girls Pod. Also, don't forget to rate, follow, share, and review the podcast wherever you listen, like Apple Podcast or Spotify, and now on TikTok. Thank you for joining us in the paddock. See you in Singapore. Bye, Craig.
Bye, Craig.
Bye, Craig.
Goodbye, Craig.